Alright, so here in this video we're going to do Chapter 5, covering itemized deductions. And just to remind you about the itemized deductions, remember we have our gross income, we have our deductions for adjusted gross income. That gives us our adjusted gross income. And then we have deductions from adjusted gross income, and those deductions are going to be your exemptions, which remember have gone away as of 2008, and your itemized deductions. And if you don't itemize, you take a standard deduction, and that gives us taxable income. And we'll go ahead and stop there for now. As far as the formula, remember there's also credits and things like that, but we'll just stop there for now. Gonna add a new page. So, first thing they go over, I believe, is the medical. Oh, and first off, they also talk about where their itemized deductions are reported. They're reported on the Schedule A, which is one of the 1040 attachments. So this would be like a third page you would attach with your return. Okay. And I believe the book follows the order, like medical, taxes, interest, charity, casualty, job, expenses, miscellaneous, etc. Alright, so let me skip that. Okay, in the medical. So the one important thing to remember about medical is that you, first off, anything that's covered by insurance, so you have the amount you spent, and then any insurance coverage is going to reduce the amount you spent, so it's only out of pocket. And then after that, so that would be like out of pocket essentially. And then after that, you have this floor, 10% of adjusted gross income. They've actually changed it for 2008. They're starting in 2018, excuse me. It's going down to 7.5% of AGI. Now, it used to be 7.5% of AGI for the longest time. And then, as a result of the Affordable Care Act, they made it 10% of AGI to help fund that. And now they had an exception for people 65 or older, but that was set to go away. But now they've reverted the floor back to 7.5% for everybody. So just be aware of that. And then this is where your deduction results. So even if we take insurance out of the picture, let's say you're just paying everything out of pocket, and let's say you make $50,000 a year. Okay, we multiply that, so let's just say that's your adjusted gross income after taking adjustments and everything. So let's say we'll multiply that by 10%. We've got a floor of $5,000. That means anything you spend on medical up to $5,000 is in the trash. Okay, so it's only every dollar over $5,000 that you actually get a tax benefit. So if you had $5,025 in out-of-pocket medical that qualified, then you would get a $25 deduction because of your floor of $5,000. Okay, so it's pretty ridiculous. Very rarely do I see clients get any benefit from medical. So the best way to get any benefit from medical is to enroll in like a flex spending account. So that's where you get an additional amount taken out of your paycheck that reduces your taxable wages, and then any money you spend, you can get reimbursed, and I believe you can put up to $2,500 a year in it. So you get reimbursed, and that'll give you some tax benefit for medical. But other than that, I very rarely see people benefit. Normally it's elder folks who have substantial health healthcare needs, like long-term care and things like that. That's the only place, or if you have a catastrophic health disease or something that happens in your life. But other than that, just regularly going to doctor, getting sick here and there, some routine surgeries. Very rarely do I see anybody benefit in real life. Okay. Now, as far as being able to deduct for a dependent, the rules on deducting medical for a dependent are a little less strict than the rules of claiming somebody and getting like tax credits and exemptions as a dependent. So it's a little less strict. But for one thing, if you've got separated parents or divorced parents, if you will, whichever parent pays the medical expenses gets to take the deduction, even if they're not the custodial parent. Okay. So they have some general thing, like some long-term care, transportation for medical care, like if you have mileage, there's medical mileage. Then cure, prevention of diseases. It's pretty comprehensive as far as what you can deduct. The only thing that you really are not allowed to deduct, I talked about this a little bit in the tax walkthrough, but like health clubs, not allowed to. Over-the-counter supplements, vitamins. So typically for anything like that, you need a prescription from the doctor. So a doctor would have to tell you for the health club. So for medicine, they just basically have to prescribe you the medicine for treatment, and that works. You can deduct that, but nothing like vitamins and other things like herbal supplements. Again, unless it's prescribed for you. And then the health club dues, basically a doctor would say, hey, look, you are morbidly obese, and if you do not go to a gym, you will be dead in 6 months. So you need to get out to like a health club, get a fitness coach, because your life depends on it. So if they actually prescribe that, something that major, but if you're just going there to, get in shape, look good for the beach, stuff like that, that ain't gonna work. Just general overall health doesn't work. Alright, now as far as medical marijuana, I believe it has to be FDA approved. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't believe you can deduct like medical marijuana at the federal level. Just correct me if I'm wrong on that, but because I haven't seen it on the return like for a real client. But I don't believe that's deductible because it's not legally. It's not legal at the federal level. And so there is a standard mileage rate, like if you had to drive to the doctor or drive out of town to visit a facility, you get 19 cents a mile in 2016. I believe it's gone down to 18 cents a mile in 2018. But let's see, I think, 19 cents per mile, I want to say in 2016 and 17. And then in 2018, I believe it went down to 18 cents a mile. And that just varies with cost of fuel and things like that. The government might adjust it up and down. And then also tolls you can do, parking. You're also allowed to do hotel, like lodging for you, and if you need another person to go with you. Like if you're incapable of driving and all that, you can also pay for lodging for them, and I believe that's $50 per person per night is the limit. So like you can't stay in some resort for several $100 a night and deduct that as medical. But I want to say the threshold is $50 per person per night. So you and one other person, y'all can deduct that as medical. And long-term care, insurance for medical or long-term care, all of that, like out-of-pocket, medical premiums that you have to pay that you don't get a tax benefit for. For instance, if you're already getting a deduction for it, you don't get a double benefit, and you get to take it as medical as well. Like, for instance, my premiums that the ACC with the state, those are actually, I get a deduction for those off of my taxable wages, just the way the plan is set up. Not all plans are like that. So you would just have to verify what kind of plan you have, and if you're getting a deduction off of your wages for the amount of insurance that's coming out of your paycheck for your share of the premiums. Okay. And just make sure, like, as far as what kind of surgeries. So for surgeries, cosmetic is not going to work. So it has to be some kind of correction of some deformity from either you were born with it, or you get hurt or something and have to restore, or get cancer or something like that and have to restore your body to how it was before that. So one thing that has, as far as congenital, is if you're determined that, okay, even though you were born a man or a woman, but you determined that you are the other sex, and you get someone to sign off on that, it's like, yeah, so and so thinks that, you know, he or she's another sex or whatever other than the gender he or she was born with. The surgery to undergo the transgender transformation, that's tax deductible now. So that's new as of like maybe 2015 or so, maybe 2014. I can't remember exactly what year, but that's relatively new. That's an example of something congenital that needs to be corrected. But it can't be just because, oh, I want to enhance my body, making certain things larger or smaller or whatever. That's not going to work. All right, let's move on to, let's look at a problem in the book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the problems at the end of the chapter, because these you actually, we can do some calculations here. So I am taking a look at problem, oh shoot, I think it's number 51. I just had it on my screen and then I stuck the mouse or something to my finger and it rolled back up. So problem number 51 in the back of the book, it says Reggie, who is 55, had an AGI of 32,000. So let's go ahead and write that AGI down. 32,000. I'm going to go ahead and calculate the floor right now, because I know that is going to come into play. So that's my AGI floor. And during the year, he paid the following medical expenses: drugs prescribed by a physician. So we know that's good. Marijuana prescribed by physicians. Ooh, there we go. There's the example right there. And actually, yeah, alright, hold on. Alright, so since it was on here in the problem, I wanted to go ahead and look it up just to make sure, because we were talking about it. So yeah, this is what I told you earlier was correct. The statute at the federal level doesn't approve of it, so it's not going to be deductible on the federal return. So we'll skip that one. So we'll just put the normal prescription drugs, not medical marijuana. So that's 200. And then we have the health insurance premiums after taxes. Those should work. After taxes, I'm thinking is net of any any benefits. And then we have doctor's fees. It's going to be $1,250. And then eyeglasses. So glasses should work. Not sunglasses, of course, unless maybe they're prescription. I think maybe that works. And then over-the-counter drugs, we talked about that earlier. Not going to work. And so let's just add all this up. I don't have a calculator with me right now. Oh, poop. I just made a boo-boo on the math here. Should be 75. Alright, and then carry the 1. 11, 14. No, I'm an idiot. Okay. 26.75. Alright. So that's how much we've actually spent that qualifies. But then we had some insurance. And that takes our out-of-pocket down to $21.75. And then you saw that we calculated the floor over here, which is greater than the amount that qualifies. So we get a big fat 0 in deductions. Isn't that awesome? Don't you love that? Freaking our hard-earned money, $21.75 spent, and no tax benefit. Thank you, government. Alright, cool. Alright, so I think I'm going to pause this and upload it, and then I'll move on to the next itemized deduction. Thank you very much for your attention.